Thank you, everybody. My name is Álvaro Toledo, and I'm an active member of St. Rose Church in South Sacramento. And we're very, very touched by this situation. Juana is a very decent person, and she was taken from her daily activities of selling tamales in front of Walmart, which doesn't make any sense to us. She is not a criminal. She doesn't have any type of charges, and she's been doing this for the past 2 years. So for us as a community, as a faith community, this is really something that we cannot tolerate. This is a discrimination against our churchgoers and the people that is trying to make a decent living. We definitely regret this activity, and we are very interested in pursuing the Trust Act, which is 1081, which will be a legislation that will hold this type of discriminative act. And we really want to make sure that this gets into everybody's eyes, and we want to fight and defend our churchgoer, Juana. She has 2 kids. One is 7 and the other is 10. And they are under Child Protective Service. Child Protective Service is already bankrupt, and we're taking resources that should go somewhere else and just release them and let Juana stay at in this country. So that's all we want to say. Thank you.
Can you spell your first and last name, please?
Spell it, please.
Álvaro Toledo.
Can you
Spell it?
Alvaro.
Toledo,
and Toledo.
Thank you.
And now another statement in Spanish from the faith community.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Noé Hernández, pertenezco a la comunidad de la Inmaculada Concepción, y esto que está pasando se me hace muy injusto por esta señora que está vendiendo tamales aquí enfrente de la tienda. Para mí es algo como racismo, porque nada más por el simple de vender tamales la están arrestando. Se me hace injusto, la verdad. Y estoy ahorita un poco confundido, porque este caso me tiene un poco hasta nervioso, porque pocos casos como este se han escuchado aquí en la ciudad de Sacramento, y para mí es algo que me tiene incómodo, la verdad, porque es como racismo por la gente hispana. Estamos hablando de Juana Reyes. Gracias, Dios los bendiga. A la Iglesia Inmaculada.
And now the attorney Julia Vera will introduce Ms. Juana Reyes.
My name is Julia Vera. I'm her attorney, Julia Vera. I'm an attorney here in Sacramento, and I represent Ms. Juana Reyes, Juana Reyes. Ms. Reyes has no criminal history. She has never been arrested prior to this arrest. She has never been deported, and she's come into this country once and has been here ever since, nearly 20 years. She has 2 kids that were born and raised here in California. Her son, age 10, Cesar Cuesta, and her daughter, Montserrat Cuesta, who is 7 years old. And now I introduce you to you, Ms. Juana Reyes. Juana Reyes, explícales por favor lo que pasó. I will translate.
Pues estaba yo ahí estacionado en el carro, llegó el sheriff y me subió a la patrulla.
Well, I was in the vehicle, the sheriff arrived, and then he arrested me.
Me subió con mis hijos y estuvo más de media hora ahí.
He put us in the patrol vehicle with me and my children, and he had us in the patrol vehicle for over half an hour.
Hacía mucha calor y mis hijos sudando.
It was very hot, and my children were sweating in the car.
No es justo que me hagan esto por mis hijos. Yo ando luchando.
And it's not fair or just that what they're doing to me. I am fighting for my children.
Ando luchando, vendiendo tamales para sacar adelante mis hijos.
I am fighting and selling tamales to try and get my family ahead. ¿Cómo se sintió usted, señora, en la cárcel?
Me sentí muy mal, no dormía yo, lloraba día y noche, no comía yo, pensando en mis hijos.
While I was in jail, I felt sad. I couldn't eat. I cried all the time thinking of my children. ¿Había algo que le dijo el oficial a sus hijos? Was there something that the officer was telling your children?
Sí, les decía a mis hijos que me iban a mandar para México, que nunca me iban a volver a ver.
The arresting officer was telling my kids, they're going to send your mom back to Mexico. You're never going to see her again.
Y llegó la grúa, se llevó mi carro.
And the tow company came and took my only vehicle. And then CPS came, even though nearly half a dozen relatives arrived on scene and able to and willing to take the children. They were not allowed to leave with the relatives. Instead, they were relinquished over to CPS for nearly 2 weeks at local county expense. I thought I may never see my children again. Cesar, tell everybody what the officer told you when you were in the vehicle.
The officer told me that they were going to send my mom to Mexico and we were never going to see her. El policía, la que arrestó a mi mamá, le dijo a yo y a mi hermana que iban a portar a mi mamá para México y nunca le íbamos a ver.
What?
Well,
English?
The officer who arrested my mom told me and my sister that they were going to report my mom to Mexico where she was born and we were never going to see our mom anymore.
How did that make you feel?
That makes me feel sad. And when I was at the foster home, I felt bad. I was crying for my mom, and yeah, collecting money to take out my mom in jail. And yeah, when my first day back, my apartment where I live, my friends were walking around the apartment, knocking on doors, getting for money to take out my mom.
That is the unjustness here. ICE had the ability to release her under this supposed prosecutorial discretion that we all hear about but never see quite exercised in cases where it must be exercised. They could have released her. Instead, she awaited 13 days for their arrival. And then instead of releasing her on her own recognizance, they imposed upon this very poor woman, a single entrepreneurial mother, a $1,500 bond. And as you heard from her son, the community support had to come in to play, to come up with the money to pay for that bond in order for Ms. Reyes to finally be released and be reunited with her children after 13 days of custody. Where was ICE's prosecutorial discretion? Where was the exercise of secure communities wherein you only target violent offenders, felons? This was not supposed to happen, and we are hopeful that ICE will consider exercising its discretion in this very important case.
Julia,
Talk about how
what would you say what is the actual risk of deportation at this point?
This is a picture of the injuries from the ankle bracelets, the ankle cuffs that were around her ankles. She was forced to walk bent over, using her hands as a buffer between her ankle and the handcuff, the ankle cuff, and she sustained injuries from that.
Can you have her describe that for us?
Señora, por favor, explique cómo le sucedió esta herida.
Esta herida me sucedió cuando estaba yo en inmigración, que me trajeron de la casa de la inmigración, me pusieron las esposas y me lastimaban, me estaban muy apretadas.
This occurred from the cuffs that they placed around my ankles when immigration came for me, and they were too tight.
Can you explain what, in your opinion, is the actual risk of deportation at this point?
The actual risk of deportation is very imminent and clear. She has already been issued the notice to appear, which means she must appear in immigration court. She will have to present what is called the cancellation defense, which requires 3 elements. 10 years or more of continuous physical presence in this country. She needs to be of good moral character, which obviously she is, and she must have an anchoring family member that would suffer extreme and unusual hardship. In this case, her 2 children that were born in this country and who belong here and know no other country. In fact, Cesar will tell you he does not even read or write in Spanish. And so, since only 4,000 of these cancellation awards are ever granted in the year in the country, then what is the likelihood that Ms. Reyes will be granted cancellation when hundreds of thousands of cases appear before immigration court every year?
Can you talk about the Trust Act and what it does and how it would have helped Juana? And if you could, you need to face forward, though. I'm sorry. Go back to your normal position.
Thank you. I'd like to hand over the Trust Act issues to Mr. John Rodney.
Yes. And we'll have time for more questions and interviews afterwards. Again, I'm John Rodney with the California Immigrant Policy Center, and I have a statement here on behalf of the 3 co-sponsors of the Trust Act. We also want to recognize the staff of Assemblymember Tom Amiano, the author of the bill. He is traveling today on the East Coast, but he has 2 of his staffers here, and so we thank them for also their support. So, on behalf of the co-sponsors of the bill, the Asian Law Caucus, the National Day Labor Organizing Network, and the California Immigrant Policy Center, Ms. Reyes, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your courage and your leadership today. We thank you for standing up for your family and your community, and for standing up for the values that we all share. You never should have been arrested. You never should have been held for extra time in our local jail at taxpayer expense, just for the sake of a wasteful and harmful deportation program. California is a very different state than Arizona, but this is the kind of incident people might expect in Phoenix, the capital of Arizona, not Sacramento, the capital of the Golden State. So first of all, we call upon ICE to immediately stop Ms. Reyes' deportation. But we know that tens of thousands of other people, like Ms. Reyes, have already been torn from their families, are already gone. And we know that tens of thousands more people will meet the same fate unless we follow the leadership of Ms. Reyes and stand up for what is right. And that is why we need the Trust Act in California. The so-called Secure Communities Program has deported more than 75,000 Californians. 7 out of 10 of those people either had no conviction or a minor conviction. How can community members trust our law enforcement when an arrest this minor turns into a 13-day nightmare in our local jail for immigration purposes? How many resources were wasted? Under the Trust Act, Ms. Reyes' shameful and extended detention would have been prevented. The moment she otherwise would have been released with bail or the charges dropped, she would have walked out of jail to be reunited with her family. Instead, that moment turned into a nightmare because of ICE, an ICE hold request. A request to trap her in our local jails at local expense just for deportation purposes. Under the Trust Act, local governments only submit to these cruel requests to hold people if the person has a serious or violent felony conviction. Also, under the bill, our local governments would develop plans to monitor and guard against racial profiling. With such a plan, would she have been arrested? We hope that Governor Brown, who has signed many other important and forward-thinking bills, will also sign the Trust Act.
That is still under investigation. Our understanding is that a Walmart security guard did approach Ms. Reyes approximately 3 to 4 months ago, had told her not to be here selling tamales, although we also understand that at least 3 or 4 other entrepreneurial spirits are here selling tamales as well on or around the same days. On the particular day that Ms. Reyes was arrested, she apparently was approached by an officer. They did leave the Walmart parking lot for a brief moment. They attempted to go to a different location where it was slow and no one was purchasing her tamales. She did come back about an hour or so later, and without any words, without any communication to her, she was immediately taken into custody, put into the vehicle, and placed in there for over half an hour with her children. Our understanding is that Walmart may have had some role in asking the security guard or in calling the officers to come and arrest Ms. Reyes.
So let me get this right. She had at least 2 warnings, but ignored them both. And so now we're upset that Walmart followed through on their threats? I mean, why? There's a pattern here. She came to the country illegally. She did not follow the rules when she was here. Why should people be up in arms about her being arrested when she's ignored the rules?
She had been selling tamales here among other folks without incident for over 2 years. When she was told not to come back or told to leave, this was approximately 3 or 4 months ago, on the day of the arrest, that may be the second time that she was asked to leave, she did leave. She realized that all the other vendors remained, so she came back. She started to sell again. So yes, she disobeyed and came back.
Right, but not to put too fine a point on it, we do need an answer to that question. This all started with an illegal act. She came to the country illegally, and put context this for us. Why should people be in support of what is a very sad story, but a sad story that started with an illegal act?
Because that's why we have prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutorial discretion allows the government to take a case-by-case basis analysis and exercise its discretion, albeit with the information that the person came in undocumented or without inspection. That is what prosecutorial discretion is for. So prosecutorial discretion allows the government to take into account Ms. Reyes' no criminal history, no previous removals, and the fact that she's been here for over 20 years without any incident and raising 2 great kids who are doing very well in school and know no other country but their own here in the United States.
And I think we need to remember that we have a broken immigration system in this country, that people who have been here almost as long as I have been alive still are not able to fully participate. And I would ask viewers and listeners and readers, what would they do? They have been here 20 years, they were going to church, they're part of their communities, they need to feed their kids, and most people enjoy buying their tamales. What would we all do? So we need to have solutions that move us forward, and I think we could agree that deporting a member of our community like Ms. Reyes is a tremendous waste, and it's really a step in the wrong direction from our values.
Let me ask you a follow-up to that. Is she came here ahead of somebody else from her own country who was waiting to come here legally and follow the proper channels, but did not. So she delayed them from coming. How is that fair?
I think that that is a misunderstanding of the immigration system. There is no line to get in for the vast majority of people, and we have almost 11 million members of the communities in the United States who are contributing, and unfortunately because of this immigration system cannot fully take part.
Why is, if there's no line, then why are people coming here illegally and sleeping in jobs? Yeah.
I think that again, that we need to look at the fact that we have a broken system, that the labor of immigrant communities has been very important in many sectors of our economy and moving our country forward, and we need to look at our values as a nation. And our own Governor Jerry Brown did say in an interview that if all the undocumented residents of California were removed, this was on KGO, you can look it up, all of them were kind of teleported out, or I think he said taken in buses and sent from where they'd come, the economy of California would be in shambles. You can look it up on KGO.
That's right.
And so this is exactly what we're talking about here. I will find it for you. I have the...
That would be KGO Radio, and
Yes,
we
I'm
sold
sorry.
them many years ago.
I'm sorry I didn't clarify which KGO it was, but I have a transcript of it from the crowd.